September 18th, 2022. It's a Sunday. I was going to say I was going to take Monday off, but probably not. Maybe Tuesday. But we're done extracting. And it appears that we've extracted about 6,000 pounds of honey in 6 days. Not very fast, you see, but that's what happens. So we're just finishing up. My dear wife has paled every drop of this honey, so she deserves a big round of applause for that. And I'm exhausted. I can hardly stand here, and I need to go in and have some supper. So that's it for today, and that's it for extracting for 2022. So this is my fall visit by the KRTP. So Derek is here again. You may have seen him in my video in the spring. Just doing some varroa sampling. He's taken some nosema samples as well. So what he does is he'll take 10 samples and do varroa test on 10 different colonies. And then he'll take a nosema sample from those and do an aggregate nosema count for the yard. I've asked him today to take 3 individual nosema samples to test particular colonies that I might consider that might have elevated nosema levels. My understanding is that a nosema cerana infection, although largely symptomless, can simply take a colony and just not allow it to progress. There's I won't go into exactly why, but a colony that just kind of sits there and doesn't do anything all summer. And I've got a couple of those. They're actually in nukes because they didn't grow up. So he's going to sample those and then give me a reading on a nosema level on those particular colonies, just so that I can compare that against my aggregate nosema level in the yard. So if he gives me an aggregate nosema level of, let's say, 5 million, which was, I think, about a year ago, was the level of the yard, and then he comes back with these in particular single samples of 10 or 15 million on those colonies, then that gives me an idea of why those things are just sitting there not doing anything. I mean, if they're low, then maybe just not a very good queen or something. So that's kind of what's going on today.
The big one.
This is the big one. Doing a varroa sample, well, nosema as well, on this. Look at how much they're bearding out the front. So the nice thing about having Derek do this is I don't have to babysit him. I'll just say the bees are there, do your thing. But I'm watching here just because I'm curious to see what's in these colonies, what's in these hives, and what we're seeing a lot of syrup storage, obviously, because they've gone through a pail and a half to 2 pails of syrup already, 12-liter pails. But we're still seeing quite a bit of brood. It's the 19th of September. That's okay. If that large brood nest persists for more than, I would think, 3 weeks or so, that can be problematic because, of course, anytime you have brood, you have varroa incubation. So he's sampling that in the story frames. This story frame looks like it's packed right out.
Indeed, yeah.
And it's just almost all capped, and a little bit on the side is not capped. So that's kind of what I want to see. We had one couple hives ago that was the story frame was kind of right full of drone brood and worker brood. So I'm not sure what to make of that.
Brood here either.
So that's frame number 4.
Tiny bit here.
A little bit, eh? A little bit to know that it should be queen right.
Mm-hmm.
That's number 4, isn't it?
4. Yeah, a little bit on this side.
All right. Well, that's good. That's interesting. It's a big, strong colony, and it really has one of the lowest amounts of brood we've seen so far.
Yep.
That's kind of crazy.
Taking the feed right down.
I would not have predicted that. It's all in the learning curve, right? So I've got my smoker at hand, right? I'm not doing any work, but I'm also wearing shorts, so a t-shirt. So I have to have some defense if they get wild.
No brood here. Well, feed as well.
That's 5.
Number 5.
Wow. So just a tiny bit of brood on number 4.
Yeah.
Interesting. So pretty well every year my method is I put a pound of patty on right around the first week of September. This year I put 2 on, and they are gonzo. Long gone.
Partial back there.
Was there? And that's one of my indications when I go to look for, yeah, there's no way around that, is there? Get my brush, I guess. That brush is right behind you. And my babies, you know how it is. Do what you can. I'll give them another week on those pails. Yeah, that's often my indication on who's got a queen. A couple pounds of patty, and you come back and a couple of weeks and they haven't much touched it, then they don't have a queen.
2 patties on September 1st. What do you think?
Yeah, it was around then. Shortly after. Now they're looking for places to put that syrup. That's a heavy one. That's what you want to see. Story frame's right full. Oh, just a, no, there's a little bit of brood yet. Okay. And I don't have much context for that because, as I was saying, I don't dig into them. As a rule, this time of year.
On number 4.
Oh, it's pretty well shut down.
couple of cells here. How many?
Yeah, it's pretty freaky when you open a colony and 10 solid frames of capped syrup. I remember Ian was saying on a video recently that it's just a totally foreign situation. We don't see that, and it kind of is scary, but it's normal. That's what happens.
Queens should all be marked, eh?
I believe they are. They're all 21s too, which is white. Usually easy to see.
Should pop out, yeah.
Unless they've replaced her. It's always the trick.
You have many swarms this year?
Not really.
Like last year.
Well, actually, I think I had more this year than last.
Oh, yeah.
Probably because this year was so foreign. It was there was nothing normal about this year, it seemed. The timing of the bees was way off, and the fact that I don't have a lot of years in beekeeping, I couldn't draw on any of my timing. This is when I do this. This is when to expect that. So I did cast a couple of swarms, but that was, you know, I'm gonna conservatively say that my swarms were way under 5%. I would say more like 2. I did head off a number of preparations and got some new nukes out of it. So there's that. I'll button that. I'll put that pail back on. What do we got? Well, it's a box of bees for sure.
Through there.
Yeah. I sure don't like seeing this in this time of year.
Yeah.
You know, it really reduces the feed storage. With that brood, there's really nothing I can do. So what we're doing here is we're looking on the brood frames. Hopefully there is some brood frames for the test, for the sample, because that's where the bees with the varroa on them will likely be. The nosema sample, you want the opposite. You want older bees. So Derek just takes that right off the top underneath the pail for the nosema sample. So queen right, queenless really doesn't have a lot to do with a nosema sample. It's probably what it is, regardless. Would that be fair?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Of course, Varroa sample, you've got no queen, you've got no brood, you've got no Varroa in incubation. You've got a brood break, actually. Oh, see what I did? I dumped that pail on myself. That's cold. These are strong colonies. They're bearding up.
It's just water, not syrup.
Yeah. You shake that frame into the tub, it helps you spot the queen if you overlooked her. And it helps you scoop the bees up too. Was this 3 years now you've sampled for me? I don't think you've sampled a queen yet.
Not that I've seen. I don't think we've found any queens in any of our samples yet. Anybody?
That's good to know.
Of course, we're good.
So nice thing also about shaking the bees in the tub is the older bees fly away and you separate them from the young bees.
A higher proportion of young bees.
I'm in really good spirits today because we finished our extracting yesterday afternoon, early evening. And today is a beautiful day to come out into the apiary. There's a few things I need to take care of out here. And the days that are warm enough and nice enough to do work for this are getting fewer and farther between. It's been a bit of a cool and rainy week. So today is really nice. I believe it's going to start to rain later today though, so I need to get this done. So Derek from KRTP is out today. He's just finishing up on the other side, marking the colonies that he's sampling. So I'll play the video that I made of him doing that earlier here in a minute. And then what I'm going to do here today, the things I need to take care of are, one of the things is I have a few of these little guys sitting here. These are failed mating nukes. Just the last round of mating didn't work out. And they've been sitting here too long, so they're probably in pretty rough shape, and they just need to be shaken out. I hate doing shakeouts, but it's the best thing for them because they can find a new home with a viable colony. Left to their own, they're just going to peter out, cease to exist, and make a really big mess of the equipment. So these three need to be shaken out. I'm going to do some assessments in the apiary. I think there are a few full colonies that need to be shaken out. And there's the swarm. I can see still sitting up there, needs to be transferred into the box it's sitting on, so just so it's sitting down on the pallet. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 doubles that should be consolidated into one box. I don't usually winter doubles. I could make an exception for a couple if it came to that, but I'd like to get them into singles. It just fits my workflow a lot better. So here we go. It's Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. I'm out here a little bit earlier than I often am because I wanted to get out while it was cool in the morning and beat the bees because it's time of season to put the supers away in the sea can. There's bees flying around here, but I'm not sure if they're new bees or bees that have stuck around since yesterday. So anyway, this is not an exciting job. I've got a few boxes in here already. I'm just going to kind of stack them up. You can't see, it's kind of dark in here. I can get them 10 high in here. This is what they call a high cube 9. What does it say? It's 9'6", 9'6" high. So it's nice. It's much nicer than the standard cube sea cans. So I get 10 supers high in here, but I can't do that on a pallet. It's pretty close to the ceiling. So the top one or two is pretty high. And yeah, so I've sorted them all on my pallets. I've got them, dark combs and pristine white combs and that kind of thing. And I just separate them out in here so that next spring, next summer, if I'm looking for darker combs, for making splits or, brood comb kind of thing, I can choose easily. And if I want just nice pristine honeycomb, that's what I can choose. I've got some foundation, but the foundation, anything that wasn't drawn well, I'm leaving in the honey house, because then I do a re-wax. After I render my wax, then I'll do a re-wax of those frames for next year, and that really makes a big difference. I'll show you how that goes once I'm onto it. So I've got my little orange buddy here. I brought out one skid of supers with me, and I've got a bunch in here from the other day. I just run out here and jam them in the sea can when it's cool enough to do so. Problem is, it needs to be cool enough, but then also it gets kind of wet. You can see how foggy it is. It's been raining, and so if it's too wet, then it's muddy and I can't get here. So I need just that right condition to do that. Anyway, that's what I'm doing today. Oh, went out to dinner last night with my wife. That was really nice. She had a steak and I had a nice rack of ribs. Oh man, that was one of the best racks of ribs I ever had. So it was really nice to have a bit of time with her and have a bit of time away from the farm. But today it's back to work for her and back to work for me too. I don't know if today I'm going to try to mix a tank of syrup. I'm going to chance keeping it for the winter. I'll use some of it, might use most of it, and then try and keep it for the winter, because I know that the bags were hardening up on me last time I mixed, and they'll be rock hard by spring. That's the biggest problem with mixing sugar, is the shelf life on the bags. Unless you have a climate controlled, very dry environment to keep them in, they just absorb moisture from the atmosphere and then they go hard. So anyway, that's yet to be seen if that happens. It's early enough that it really should. So that's what's happening today. I'm dealing with my wax melter today. It's been cantankerous the whole time we're trying to extract, and the symptom was that the controller just kind of didn't know what the temperature was of the jacket, and sometimes it was okay and other times it lost its marbles, and so that would usually manifest itself in the thing not wanting to turn on, so it wouldn't run hot enough, and so I had to jack the temperature way up in order to keep it turned on, and then we would have to manage that manually, watching the temperature of the honey. Not good. That's not what you want out of a, quote, thermostat, right? These controllers actually are pretty high quality unit. It's a Johnson Controls. You can see a model number and stuff there. It's exactly the controller I chose for my warming cabinet. I've been very happy with it on that. So I wasn't sure if it was the thermostat bulb. I'll show you the thermostat bulb. It's a pretty straightforward little unit. It's just here. It's got that little bulb on the end, and that just sticks into the jacket into a little fitting, so it's really easy to change. It just hooks up to the controller with a couple of tiny wires, so it's very easy to change, very easy to set up. No big deal. But this is a kind of a DIY thing, because you have to wire the little sensor in there, and then you have to wire your 240 volt input here, along with your line for the element in there. So you have to know how to kind of read notations on the unit. It's all there. There's nothing missing. It's not difficult to figure out how it goes. It's just it's not a plug and play thing like some people might want. You buy an Inkbird and it just plugs in kind of thing. That's not what this is. But it's far higher quality than anything Inkbird supplies. So anyway, having said that, this is the controller. I have a hard time getting in here because it's against the wall. So that's the controller, and I just changed that. I had changed the sensor, and didn't change anything because that was pretty easy to change that sensor. And so then that didn't change anything. And so I changed this controller, and now this is an A419 controller as opposed to an A421 controller. It works a little differently as far as the menus and whatnot go, but it's exactly the same as far as its capabilities and whatnot in this application. One nice thing about it is, for me, is it has one set point, and then what they call what do they call? Well, what it is it has a one set point, and then you can control how many degrees above or below that goes for on or off. This one is a little goofier. It has two set points. It has two set points. You have to change it for where it turns on and where it turns off. And in this application, in my opinion, that's not necessary. Some applications you might want that. So I actually prefer the operation of this one. But there's one big downside to me about this one is there's no backlight on that. That's hard to see. Even when it's on, you can't see that display really easily. My tired old eyes, it just does an initialization. I've got it set to, I think I set it to 45. So you can see the pilot light, which is nice. That shows you when it's actually on. And I'm not sure you can hear that, but I can hear the element going now in the water jacket. So 31 degrees, I believe that because I've still got the building fairly warm here. And it's a stable temperature. The other one, you turn it on, it was jumping all over the place. It didn't know what was happening. So I'm not really sure what happened to that controller. I don't know if it was related to me burning out the element. I burned out the element because I turned the thing on with no water in the jacket. So that's how I burned out the element. I'm thankful that I actually had this on hand. I was actually given some miscellaneous stuff from somebody, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I noticed there was this 419 controller in there, and I thought, hey, maybe I'll just try that thing. Sure enough, I looked up all the specs and made sure it was going to operate the way I wanted, and it was going to handle the 240 volt input and the 240 volt heater element, and it does. So I just changed it out. It was a kind of a pain because of just the way it's situated. It's kind of dark, and it's just that. It's not rocket science, but it was just fiddly. Seems to be working, and I'm thankful for that. So now I can move on to something else today. I don't know if you can hear the pump over there. I've left my trailer with the tank on it over by the apiary. My thinking is it's dry enough right now, so maybe when it's time to fill those pails, I can fill them a little closer to where the hives are. We'll see how that works. Buddy of mine's got a really long 1-inch hose on his syrup system, so he doesn't carry the pails around. He just kind of hauls the hose around to the hive. That sounds like a really good idea to me. So I'm going to see if a 1-inch hose will work for, as far as flow rate and filling pails. And then if it does, I'm going to splurge on some nice 1-inch hose for that system. put a reel on it to reel it up and keep it tidy. So that's the plan, Stan, and we'll see how that works. Because man, walking around with those bales, that is a lot of walking. That is a lot of walking. I can get my exercise though. So it is almost what is it? Almost 3 o'clock. I think it's almost 3 o'clock, and I'm going in for lunch. So then we'll see what kind of shenanigans I get up to after lunch. I was going to try and take a day off, but so maybe I'll take an afternoon or half the afternoon off. That's nice and sunny. All right, so that's it for now. It's Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. This is my third try at this video. Just having microphone problems, and I don't know if they're my fault or not, but that's it. So I'm in the honey house, and I had to do a little job here. It's always a bit of a pain because it's out of step with everything else. I don't take time to cut my comb honey until kind of everything is wrapped up, until the honey is through and paled and washed down and everything. But I have to take these frames. These are AKA story frames, so they've got a half a sheet of foundation center, foundationless on the side, and then so I can cut that for comb honey on the side. They don't always do it perfectly, but often you get some. And then what's left, I need to uncap that and extract it. So I did that. There was only, what was there? Was there seven? Only 7 frames of that to run, and so that's extracted now. And I'm just heating it up in here. It's really quite warm. It's I think it's about 35°C. So I want to get it nice and warm in here, so when I do run the last bit of honey through, all the equipment is nice and warm, the honey is fluid, and it'll run out, and therefore I lose less honey than I would otherwise. The next job is to get my wax into the melter here, which by the way is working perfectly since I changed that controller. So it's working really nice. I'm holding that at about a 35°C. I believe that's a safe temperature for the honey for a good period of time. And then once I get all the wax in there, then we'll get it nice and warm. I start paling that up and keep putting more cappings wax in there, and the honey will drain. The wax floats on the honey drains. So you want to get it warm so that the honey is nice and thin, and it goes to the bottom. You can pale that up, and then over time, and it usually takes me a couple days, maybe 3, I keep jacking the temperature of that melter up, and I keep jacking that up and jacking that up, and every time I do, I get more and more honey out of it, but eventually I darken the honey. So I'll start to get honey that's a little bit darker, and then at the end I get honey that's a lot darker. So find a market for that, and you can usually find someone over the year that kind of wants that kind of thing. The really dark stuff I can put in a pail and sell it as cooking honey. I have a few customers who like that product. So regardless of that, and then once I have all the honey that I think I can get out of that, then I jack that temperature right up to about 75, I think C is what I use, and that'll melt the wax. And I can melt the wax, then I can drain absolutely the last bit of honey out of that, and it'll be very dark. And then I can put water in there. I'll put water in there and melt the wax. Then I can render that up. Pour it out of the mid gate. There's a mid gate on the other side of it, up here. So you fill it with water to bring the wax up to that point. All of the junk should fall down. Then you can pour off very nice clean wax out of that. So that takes a few days because you put water in, and you got to wait for it to heat up and all that kind of thing. So that's what I've been doing. I got out rather early, 9. It was 9C when I got out to the sea can. I took the last few pallets of supers out of the honey house to the sea can. So that's done. A little bit of breathing room in here now. It's surprising how cold the bees fly. because they were starting to really take interest in me by the time I was done. So I needed to hasten that job. So right now I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to jump on the tractor and do some lawn mowing. I'm going to cut some grass. Haven't cut it much over the summer, and it's getting pretty raggedy, so it needs to be cut. And yeah, that's it. I love cutting grass, so it's a break for me, and I think I need a bit of a break. I'm just kind of burned out in the head more than physically, really. So that's really what's been going on today, and that's where I'm at so far. It's Thursday, September 22nd, 2022, and I'm working in the honey house today. It's a nice day out, but it's not very warm. It's like 10, 11 C. And boy, is it hot in here. I got it cooking. I got it up to 35 C in here. And that's so that all my equipment gets nice and warm and the honey just, will flow off better. There's still a lot of honey goes down the drain as I clean. So that's job number one, to get all the honey through the system and into the tank so that I can warm it, settle it, and strain and pail it out the other end. And you can see I'm just dripping. So the uncapper's kind of been scraped out. The uncapping tank, I picked that wax out. I've got a little fork tool, and I pail it over into the tank here. There's a lot of honey in that wax, so the uncapping tank is now empty. And the sump is kind of the next job. The extractor has been emptying into the sump for quite some time, and there's a very, very small trickle there now. Something about this goofy valve. I've got this what looks like a nice gate on my extractor. However, it's a 2-inch fitting on the extractor, and it's a 2-inch gate, right? See, 2-inch gate, but it's got a 1-inch hole in it. Look at you might make something like that. You make a nice 2-inch gate and you put a 1-inch hole in it. I don't get it. So I have to take that out to get the extra, bit of honey out of the extractor. So it's pretty well drained now. And after I do that, these baffles in the sump. So the triangular baffle has a space at the bottom for the honey to go under. And then there's a straight baffle behind it, which goes to the bottom, and the honey has to go over that. So there's 2 of those in there. At the bottom, or near the bottom, there's a bung in each one of those straight baffles. So I need to reach down in there and take the bung out. If I mostly drain it, it's not too bad. There's only maybe a couple inches of honey in it. So take the bung out, then the honey will flow back into the end of the sump, and I can pump it from there. Now, after that's done, there's still a lot of honey in that sump. So, next deal is to close this off and then open the bung on the water jacket. Let the water out of this thing. It's really heavy when it's full of water. And then once I let the water out, I'll lift this end up, prop it up on boxes and pails or whatever. Lift this end up, and that'll encourage the honey to go to the back, and then I can pump more honey into the tank. You see my tank is getting pretty full because I've been cleaning out the capping tank, putting all the wax and everything in it. So it's probably, I'll bet you it's a third wax in here. I'm warming this up nicely, and over time that'll get warm and settle off a lot better. So that is the deal. Then once I get all the honey I can get out of there, I end up bucketing the last little bit out, and then I start unhooking the lines. I'll disconnect that line and then drain the little tube out into the tank. You always have to be careful. Make sure you work in such a way where you're not going to contaminate anything. So I'd rather spill a bit of honey than contaminate the honey. So that's the key. And that is the job for Thursday. And is it ever hot in here? you hear in the background there, well, you hear crickets, but my dehumidifier is going full blast, trying to dry it out in here so that it's not so humid and uncomfortable. Plus, if there's open honey, then that keeps the humidity down in order for the honey to not absorb atmospheric moisture, which it will do. So that's it. That's today. It's Friday, September 23rd, 2022. I'm back in the really hot honey house again. Fortunately, every day that goes by, I spend a little less time in here. So I got a lot of stuff washed out yesterday. I got the sump all cleaned out, got the extractor washed out. I have to do the uncapper yet. It's still a mess. I've been spending my time on my melter. So this is my cappings wax. So I've been dumping my cappings wax in the melter, waiting for it to warm and settle, and then pouring the honey out the bottom. That's an arduous process because it happens so slowly. People will ask, well, how hot can I warm my honey to do such a thing? And I'll tell you, I don't know. I've done a lot of experimenting, and I've spoiled a lot of honey. It's more a matter of time and temperature than it is just temperature. You can hold honey at probably 35, 38 C for a long enough time that you'll likely damage it. In my experience, you can warm honey past 50 C for a short period of time without damaging it. So I try to stay with my melter. I try to stay no hotter than 45 to 47 C for the honey, and that's short period of time. That's short period of time. What does that mean? I don't know, an hour. That strains nicely at that temperature for sure. It's all a balance. It's all a game. You need to get the honey out of the wax, but you need heat to do that. You damage the honey with too much heat. There is no definition that I've seen. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I think there's a state, Ohio, I want to say, has a statement of what raw honey is defined as. You can say, oh, raw honey is this and raw honey is that, but what I'm saying is an actual definition in legislation of some system that says what raw honey is. There's very little said on that. If you have references for that, please send them to me in the comments. The one thing that I have seen, and I don't ascribe to this idea, however, this is one definition that I have seen. The Canadian organization that will certify organically produced honey states that 47 degrees is the upper maximum for warming of honey. Why they chose 47, I don't know. Because I know very well 47, if you hold honey at that, you'll burn it. So I don't know how they come up with that. They come up with all kinds of screwy rules that I don't understand. So I don't worry about the fact that I don't understand it, because it seems to be kind of an arbitrary organization. But that's the only thing I've ever really seen to state temperatures. I definitely try and stay under that. But short periods of time, I can go, up in that area for warming honey for straining, warming honey for separation and settling, that sort of thing. Once I go above that, and I will go above that, once I'm confident that I've gotten pretty well squeezed all the honey I can out of that at the safe temperatures, then I start to go above that. But that honey is paled and marked as, dark honey, or honey that's been heated too much, and it'll be sold as such. There's full disclosure here. There's no fudge in the books. There's no trying to pass something off for what it isn't. I have plenty of honey that's premium quality, and then the little bit of honey that I have that's going to be heated. I don't know. I'll probably produce could be a couple of 100 pounds of overheated honey out of 6,000. So you do the percentages there. That's honey that would be lost down the drain if I just simply rendered it. So I'm going to heat it. I'm going to get it out of there. It's still a sweetener. It's an overheated sweetener. It can still be used in food grade applications. Don't want to feed it to your bees. My goodness, don't feed that stuff to your bees. So that's just that's how I approach things. So I didn't even dump 2 pails of honey out of here today. Close. Got very close to 100 pounds of honey out of here today. And then tomorrow, hopefully, I'll get close to that again. But every day you get less and less. And then as it dwindles to nothing, then you have to jack the temperature. So that's the process now. It's a little bit frustrating, and but it's relaxing. You don't have to really work so hard, but you'd like to just do it and get it over with. This building costs me a ton of money every day keeping it hot, and as long as I have cappings wax in the pail in here, I want to keep it warm. My September hydro bill is always skyrocket. It's crazy. So that's what my Friday looks like. Yeah. So what can I say? That's what we're doing. Little peek at the crop here I'm looking at over here. There's another skid back there hiding. So three skids plus, 3.5 skids of honey. There's 1,800 pounds on a skid. It's going to have to do because that's what it is. I don't buy honey. I did get a little last year, full disclosure, from a guy who's got probably a nicer clover and wildflower blend than I have. So I got a little bit from him last year, which was nice. But it wasn't that I was seeking out honey to buy. It was just something that came up, and it kind of worked out for both of us. So that's the only time I've ever gotten any honey. And usually I just sell what I have. I'm not a guy to buy and sell honey. Well, I sell honey. I'm not a guy to buy honey. I'm not the buyer for the seller in the barrel or in the pail. So it is what it is. And I might be cherry picking frames in early August next summer just to get enough honey to put in the jar. I have to be careful how I pack the last couple 1,000 pounds because, if I end up with all pails and people want small jars, then that's unfortunate. So I'm in here. Look, I'm in long pants. And I'm in this hot building. I was going to be working outside this morning. I just had to stop in here and do this honey, and it's rather cool. So I've migrated to long pants. Okay, the first time that's happened since May, I think. I'm not sure anything much else will happen today of note. So I'll bid you all a good weekend, and thanks for watching. Have a great day and have fun.